Okay, ready.
All right. Almost. Rosie?
No.
A little chill.
You good, Rosie? Okay. Call this meeting back into order at 7:05 p.m. Roll call, please, Ms. Bell.
Good evening, everyone. Ms. Nathan, Mr. Ocampo,
Here.
Ms. McIntyre, Mr. Murphy,
Here.
Ms. Lahano,
Here.
Mr. Hada,
Here.
Mr. Ochapinti,
Here.
Mrs. Amy Garrett,
Present.
and Ms. Salahuddin,
Here.
and Mr. Lee.
Here. Mr. Campo, would you lead us in the pledge?
We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Dr. Gloria, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
There are no changes.
Okay, and there was, oh, sorry. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Nothing to report out of closed session this evening, so we'll jump ahead to item 10A in the board report, and we can start with our student trustees at the far end. Ms. Nathan, would you like to do it, or
The report?
just to report out on what's
Oh,
happening?
yeah, sure. So we just finished our Brandon Lee event for a part of Filipino Barkada. So they were able to have like a talent show that was able to raise money for Brandon Lee, which was back in the Philippines. And also we have the SAT coming up for seniors on the 16th, I believe. And for everyone else, it's going to be for the PSAT. And also open houses tomorrow. So majority of parents are going to come and have like a tour of the school, and Green Hats will be assisting parents, and choir would also be performing then. And there has been rally auditions, and this week is also Spirit Week. So our theme this year is Mario. So class of 2020, of course, has Mario as a character, and we have to see which class could save Peach in like the greatest way possible. So yes, it's nothing major, but those are the current events.
Nice. Sounds like a lot of fun.
For Jefferson, the Jefferson band just performed at Fog Fest last Saturday throughout the parade. That was really fun. This week, they're performing to be ready for Festa Del Mar, a marching competition down in San Jose. We just started off our Grizzly Flex time officially about last week. Today was really the first day where everyone get to choose to go to which class. And overall, I heard feedback was really great. People got a lot of things done, and with this new time, hopefully more and more things can be done for more students. This Saturday, we also have a car show coming up. It's really exciting. There's always people there. There's usually students to sell stuff to adults there. And it's really nice to help fundraise any clubs or anything like that. And again, we have a SAT coming up October 16th for the seniors, and a PSAT for sophomores, juniors, and freshmen.
So at Terra Nova, last week we had our club fair where all the clubs, came out and, presented with booths and stuff, and got people to sign up and join, and it was a really good turnout. A lot of new clubs this year, and a lot of students came out and supported those clubs. We got a lot of people to, participate and sign up for stuff, which was really good to see. I was in there for journalism, taking pictures of the event, and it went really well. Everyone seemed pretty happy, and you could, feel the school spirit, which was good to see. And then this week, I believe tomorrow and the next day, leadership is hosting, or they're putting on an event where students can go into the leadership room at lunch, and they're doing a program where they can write letters to soldiers overseas, and just kind of show support for our men and women overseas. And I think it's a really good event. It's bringing the community together, and shows our support for our country and our soldiers. And then Wednesday night, the junior and senior classes are putting on a spaghetti dinner at the Moose Lodge in Pacifica. Tickets are $15 for those 13 years and older, and it's just to help raise funds for both the junior and senior classes to fundraise for formal and prom and events like that, because those classes don't have the most funds right now. So it's good that they're linking up together to help each other and raise some funds and have a good time.
Hi, so for Oceana, we had our back to school night the week before last week, where the freshmen presented the freshman orientation project, and we had outside of ASB volunteers to help out with the event so they could get community service hours. And then the day after that, we had our first dance of the year, the back to school night dance, and we actually sold over 200 tickets pre-sale, which is more than we've sold for any other dance like ever at Oceana, so it was pretty good. There was something that happened with a student bringing something into the dance. Yeah, that was like an issue, but it was at the end. And then we just met with AC to adopt like a new protocol for every single dance, like bag checks and no water bottles, like you can't see through, like trying to just control what students bring in. And then we had our Spirit Week last week and our rally. And again, it was World Rally, so all of the games were themed towards like raising awareness for climate change and like the environment. And this weekend was Fog Fest, where we had around 70 student volunteers to also get community service hours, because we do green team and the parking lot for Fog Fest. And let me see. Yeah, I think that's everything that's happened. We're just preparing for our Stussy sale, which is on October 12th. The SAT is on the 16th. Open house on the 17th. We have Halloween Fest coming up on October 25th, and we're actually in the middle of our food drive until November. So we donate a bunch of canned food or just anything that's non-perishable to like somewhere locally in Pacifica. And then, yeah, for Fog Fest, we made a lot of money. And last year we actually raised money to get reusable or like water bottle station fillers that were supposed to be installed over the summer. But is there any news on when?
I do not know, but I will ask.
So, was it a week ago? We went to our first ever Equity Task Force meeting here in the district to start our work on equity. We always talk about it. I don't think a lot of people don't know what it is. And this is going to be the tough work that Mr. Lee and Ms. Salahuddin brought to our district through CSBA, the pilot program. And it was a really big turnout, and we'd love to get more students involved. And let's see, look for a date where, because it's a series, you've got to go to every single one to really get something out of it. So this was the first workshop, so there will be another repeat workshop if you want to start again with us, and that date will come up, will be coming. I attended at Jefferson High School a screening of the documentary, The S Word, about a documentary, award-winning documentary about suicide, and it was really touching, disturbing, but also encouraging. And you had parents on a panel and students on a panel, wellness counselors on a panel, who had personal experience about how to deal with teen suicide, and it was a really, really good presentation. I asked a parent at Jefferson. I went to my first PTSA meeting there this year, and it's looking really good. We've got a lot of good. We've got a lot of people who want to do a lot of volunteering, so that's really nice. Got to go to Fog Fest and work the JUHSD booth. We had the Student Advisory Council meeting last night. Ms. Salahuddin and I went to. They are going strong. I mean, they're so focused on some of the issues that they want to deal with this year, and I'm really excited about this group. We've got a bunch of open houses coming up, and next Wednesday, October 9th, at the Daly City Public Library at 6 p.m., it's Filipinx Lit Night, where the San Mateo County Poet Laureate Aileen Casanero is presenting prose poetry in the Filipinx American diaspora. So there are going to be a lot of Filipinx literary figures there. But also, we're going to have performances by Jefferson students. And I'm still trying to find maybe a Westmore student who can perform. But so if you can make it, I will pass down some flyers. Thank you.
Don't have a lot to report. I'm just getting back off of being sick for a while, but I was able to keep up with a few events, and just hearing about all things in September has been really good to hear, and especially student involvement in things. I know on the news last night with Brandon Lee, holding fundraisers. There are people in our community who have been doing work in our community for a long time, and to see high school students step up and take that on as well, that's really encouraging and really inspiring. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, looking forward to the rest of the work we have this month, October.
I attended the Career and Technical Education networking event at the San Mateo County Office of Education last week, and it was really great to be there and have a lot of companies offering lots of programs for high school students as well as students coming out of high school and being able to transition them into adulthood by giving them internships and job offerings. So I felt like it was more of a job fair really than a kind of networking event, because I was thinking, okay, I think high school students and students who actually just graduate could really benefit, because they were offering so many things for them. So I actually should make a suggestion about that, opening up to everybody. And actually got to connect with a lot of companies who are really excited and have a lot to offer, a lot of possibly students in our district, especially in the tech industry. We're connecting with tech companies and students working on projects that their companies are working on. So I will follow up with that and see how things are going. And also I did go to the principals and president's dinner last night at the PTA. Ms. Tejada and Dr. Deloria was there, and I just wanted to say that Dr. Deloria did a great job giving a quick and short presentation about all the positive things that were happening with the district. So thank you. So that's all I have for you.
So September is busy, and we had our equity task force meeting, so I just want to thank Tony and Corinne and our superintendent for doing all the front work with us and meeting with Andy and I, and then kind of just allowing us the space to do the presentation. I mean, a couple of years ago, I wouldn't even have talked about some of those things in an open meeting, so the fact that we can now talk about those freely in a session where we have stakeholders from all areas was kind of mind-blowing for me, and really kind of reinforced why I want to be a school board member. And I think that this is where you should start anything like this major. It should start with a lot of conversation. So I'm glad that we're starting this with conversation that included parents and teachers and administrators all in the same room having those conversations. And we had a few students, and I'm hoping that at the next one we can get a few more there and build that out. So thank you to everyone who was there and who came and who helped. I also went to Oceana Back to School Night, and that was great. I always love Oceana Back to School Night. Andy and I and Tina, our CBO, had a meeting with the Assemblymember field team to just go over our build-out plans with workforce housing and other long-term plans for this space. And that was a really good meeting. We got great feedback, which I'm glad kind of helped us see that we're on the right track. We had a full house of folks that were listening to us, so that was also really helpful.
All his staff, it seemed.
Yeah, so that was really nice. And then I also had a meeting. I'm on Assemblymember Kevin Mullen's Education Advisory Committee, and so we had that meeting. And my focus on him was, if you know, I know he's one legislator, but if he can do something to calm down Sacramento, like they don't have to use every single bill that is assigned to them to constantly, every year, there's a plethora of education law that comes through. And we just can't catch our breath. So if they could just calm down, like, I know that they're assigned bills and they feel like they have to use them, and the last governor just gave them each 10 more. So that was kind of scary, but to kind of like, if there could be a moratorium on education law so that we can all kind of catch up with what's been given to us already. And then on reflection on that, like the school start time bill, like he voted for it. I know that, you know, we polled the students said that they were fine with it, so I made my peace with it. But the issue that I have is that Samtrans started 2 weeks late this year. They can't even service the times that we're currently having. If we change and push our start times out of major commuter hours, can Samtrans accommodate that? And no one has talked to them before. Like let's have that conversation before we vote on a bill to legally force us all to change our school start time. So he did say that he would send staff to the upcoming meeting that I know, because the county superintendent was there, and she said that they have an upcoming meeting that you're part of. And he would send staff to that, and he will be involved in those meetings going forward. So hopefully we can get on the same page with Samtrans, because I would not like to see a repeat of what happened last year. And especially just like professionalism, like if you're gonna tell us you're gonna start, you know, our service 2 weeks late, don't start the letter with, we're not a yellow bus service. Like, we understand that, you know, like, let's all be civil. Yeah, sorry, I felt good about it.
That's accurate, though.
So, and then I also was at Fog Fest, and it was great. I always like doing community outreach, and anytime I can talk to our community members about our school district is a good day. So I was there on Saturday, and that was fantastic. And then with Rosie, I was at the Student Advisory Committee meeting. So the one thing I would like to say is that San Mateo County School Board Association, our first dinner meeting is on October 21st, and the topic is Special Education 101. And I think this is a good piggyback off of our work study that we had, and that the Assistant Superintendent of Special Education for the county, and Jeanette Peltier, she's going to be there, and she's bringing a team with her. And I asked her to bring folks that she can bring in to help talk about the SELPA, and also lawyers that she's really familiar with and can give good legal advice to, because as we know, special education gets wrapped in a lot of legal laws and issues. So hopefully you can all attend that. Okay, I'm done.
So I attended some of the very same events. Oceana's Back to School Night was pretty fantastic. It's always fun to see the freshmen do their freshman orientation projects, and they just seem so young. You know, I'm so used to my older kids now, so it's so funny.
You're old.
I am old. Thanks. You know, oh, every meeting now, Rosie, come on now. The Equity Task Force was really a fantastic meeting. I was really just kind of blown away at the participation and the number of people there. Yeah, I know. Actually, the feedback from the parents that I had at my table was really pretty positive, so that was very cool. I also attended the Terra Nova Education Foundation and PTO Mixer last Wednesday, so it was actually very cool to just talk to some of those parents. I mean, it was attended by Ms. Carey as well as a couple of teachers, and probably 60, 70 parents.
Nice.
And a lot of younger parents too, or I should say newer parents to the school. And so that was really pretty cool. I mean, the positive energy from some of these newer parents is remarkable. And even talking with a couple of the parents, they said that they're seeing, even amongst the middle school parents in Pacifica, there is a shift, an attitude shift about TN in particular and our schools in general. So it's really been, so that was really nice to see. And they're very excited about the stuff that we're doing in that community. And just to piggyback on the Phil Ting meeting. That meeting was attended by his district director, as well as his K-12 person on the phone from Sacramento and his housing person on the phone from Sacramento. So it was really pretty cool to have that level of participation from his office. And the next day, when I went to his fundraiser, and I was probably the fourth or fifth person there. The assembly member was speaking with a college professor of his and introduced me to him, and immediately talked about our housing project to him. So that was actually very, very cool. So I was pretty pleased that that our meeting from the prior day really sort of made an impression on him. So I think we are definitely on the right track. And Fog Fest was a lot of fun, doing both our district booth and also my wife Paige and I did the Pacifica Prevention Partnership booth as well, which had several Oceana students in the booth doing, spinning the wheel for people who came up to give little prizes to various to kids. And in fact, one student was so great at convincing lots of adults to come spin the wheel just to win a little, cheap rubber ball or something like that. So
my kids appreciated it, so.
They did, fantastic. So, and a lot of good material that we had out there with regards to assorted alcohol, vaping, and smoking prevention information. So it was good. Fun to talk to the community that way, and for me to also pull, assorted district directors and board members who walk by without seeing us and saying hi. April. All right, Dr. Gloria.
Good evening, everybody. I'll try not to be redundant. I will say about Fog Fest, I was there both days, setting up, taking down, and in between. One of the nice things this year was having those HR flyers out. There were people who picked up some of those flyers.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how we need to think a little bit differently about how, especially when it comes to classified staff, they don't necessarily go to the EdJoin site. So we need to be thinking about those other places where we could be recruiting. So I thought that was great. We started, all the administrators in the district started our official training on restorative practices. So remember, we started last year with Circle Up. But you can't really talk about restorative practices until you've developed relationships and trust. And so we worked a lot last year on relationship building. Yesterday was just an introduction. We aren't experts by any means, but I really appreciated some of the beginning skills which were all around listening. So that it sounds like talking, but they are really listening skills. So I see a few of my colleagues nodding to me. So it was really good. So Tiffany actually started out in a way, I've been to some trainings before, and she started out in an interesting way in that she had us kind of compare and contrast what justice justice looks like in an authoritarian system. So that would be like if you have a dictator, parents are often the authorities in their home, and so we talked about that, how the rules change and things like that. And then we talked about it in our criminal justice system. What does justice look like? And then what does it look like in a restorative community? And I thought it was a great way to open up the training. So that was wonderful, and I look forward to our additional training. Tomorrow marks the first afternoon where our executive cabinet goes out to each of the school sites. We go right after school. We go with goodies and drinks to hear from people, things that we need to hear about, whether it's an HR or curriculum or business and things. So I'm looking forward to that. It's one of those feedback loops, right, where we don't say too much, we just listen and take notes. We're also meeting tomorrow to talk about that makeup date for our first, remember there were a number of people who couldn't come to the Equity Task Force. I think we're probably going to select a number of dates in case that happens with future training, so we have them on the books and facilities reserved. And I think we can do a better job of recruiting students. I know I sent out an invitation to all the students related to the LGBTQ+ task force and got an additional 6 students. And students don't know who's the superintendent, and 6 people, additional students, 37 altogether, but an additional 6 students. So I think we can do something like that. I think it'd be great to have more students. And then today, I started my classroom walks of those teachers who participated in the blended learning classroom. So I spent most of the day over at Terra Nova. I don't know if you saw me or not. Yeah, I was there. And then in between those visits, I went into other classrooms as well. But I have to say, it was really, they're just in the beginning stages. There's 3 phases, so they're all in phase 1. But it was obvious that teachers were collaborating together. So I may have seen 3 U.S. history teachers implementing the same lesson plan, the same strategies in terms of blended learning, but had their own spin on it. And so it looked different, but in every case, students were engaged more than what you would see in the traditional lecture for 55 minutes. So it was really good. And I look forward to moving on to the other schools Thursday and next week. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Ms. Casey, AFT 1481 update.
Good evening, everyone. I have a few things. We're still trying to update the contracts. We've got 3 done. We have 3 more to do, and it's taken a little bit of time. But we've got another date we had today. We didn't get it done today, so next week hopefully we'll get done with that. I also attended the LGBTQ plus ad hoc meeting, and you know, we're trying to move forward on some ideas on what to do in our communities and to make some changes. You know, some of us want to just knock down walls, and some of us wiser people, that's not me, know that sometimes you have to take more time with things. But I think we have to come somewhere in between knocking down walls and taking too much time, because things have to happen. I also wanted to talk about Fog Fest. So at Fog Fest, it was great to have the we're hiring, and we did actually give out quite a few on Sunday. I was there Sunday of the nice weather. I'm sorry for those of you who were there Saturday. It was colder, but that was good. I wanted to bring up also that one of the things that we as the union are looking at is schools and communities first. So for 2020, November ballot measures coming up, when we're not sure what their numbers are going to be, and we're not sure what the information is going to be that's going to come out, but that's what we're starting to work on. And so we want to get more funding for education, for public education. So when you start to hear schools and communities first, that's what we're talking about. So you'll be hearing a lot of that coming up. And AFT 1481 is going to do some training. We're going to be getting signatures. So we're going to be asking people to participate in that. Also, later this month, so I might not be around much this month because I'll be traveling, I will be doing a CFT classified conference down in Southern California, and 3 of us are going to go. So 2 classified members and me, we're going to go down, and I will be also presenting at that conference on our COPE PAC fund, which is Committee on Political Education. So right now, we just started it this month, so we'll be raising $1,000 for that a month from our members. And so I'll be talking about how we kind of got that going in our district. And also later this month in Southern California, the district labor management team, many of us, will be going down to an institute, which is a training basically to help us further along how we communicate with each other and how to get more done in our district. And I feel thankful that we are working together really well, and this will just help us work together better. So I think that's everything I had. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 11, consent. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Item 12, public comment. Do we have any blue cards this evening, Ms. Tejada? Okay. All right, so we'll jump ahead to item 13A1, enrollment analysis report. Ms. Baca.
Good evening, President Lee. Good evening, members of the board. Tonight, I will be presenting information on the enrollment counts this school year thus far. So the purpose of this report is to provide information to the Board of Trustees on enrollment analysis and trends to help determine next steps on attracting students to attend one of our JUHSD schools. So please feel free to ask for clarification questions, but please hold the discussion until the end of the presentation. So here's the enrollment comparison per school. So I am just comparing from last year, 18-19, and during census day, we had 4,278 students. And I'm comparing that to the data that was pulled from our Student Information System Synergy, and as of September 15th, we had 4,243 students. So again, the gray bar that you will see represents 18-19, and 19-20 is the pink bar. So this is currently the breakdown per school. As you can see, there's an increase at Jefferson High School. Oceana and Terra Nova are pretty much the same. A decrease at Thornton High School and a decrease of enrollment at Westmore High School. Where do our students live? So this table shows you per school where our students reside. So as you can see, the first column shows Jefferson High School. And as you can see from the previous chart, there were 1,292 students at Jefferson High School. And this is the breakdown of all of our students at Jefferson. 16 students live in the 94005 zip code, which is Brisbane, about 1%. 982 students live in the 94014 zip code. 177 live in the 94015. 39 live in Pacifica, and there are 78 students that live outside of our district boundaries. And there's Oceana, Terra Nova, Thornton, and Westmore. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to just look at this data. And this basically says that most of our students reside in their current attendance boundary based on our board policy. So let's break it down per grade level, per school. Let's look at Jefferson High School, the first row. So there are 321 students. At Jefferson, 159 at Oceana, 220 at Terra Nova. Thornton High School does not have any 9th grade students, and Westmore has 345 students. And what you will see with this chart is that most of the students, when they get to 12th grade, the enrollment is much, much lower than the 9th grade level, except for Westmore High School, where the 9th grade students at Westmore is lower than the 12th grade students right now. But what I really would like to focus on is the number of students that were no-shows. So I'm going to focus on the 9th grade students that basically said they were in our system in Synergy and said that they expressed, wanting to attend one of our schools. They're either from our partner schools, or they filled out the Google selection form and said that they will be attending our school. But then we looked at it, a couple of weeks later and saw that there are some students that are not enrolled. So I wanted to see what is the number of the students that did not enroll in our system. We had 1,329 students in our system that said that they wanted to attend Jefferson Union High School District, and 281 of them are not currently enrolled. So the process on how we found this out is that we had their names in Synergy, and what we did was we compared the current enrollment with the previous names, and we looked at which ones are not in our system. And then, so we found out 281 names. And what our IT department had done was they looked at CalPads and verified whether these students are enrolled in any of the schools around. Okay.
What's
CalPads stands for California Longitudinal Pupil Data System. So it is a system, K-12, that tracks enrollment in the California public school. Okay, so if they have ever attended a public school in California, they will have a student ID that will track them, and it actually now starts from preschool all the way up to 12th grade.
They disappeared after, if they go to private school.
If they go to private school, it will show that there is a gap of enrollment, and it will not show in CalPads. So these students, again, we had their SSID, and we can also track it by their name. And so we looked at CalPads to see if they were enrolled in a public school. So that's 21% of our students that said that they will be coming to Jefferson Union High School District are not enrolled in our system right now. So where were our 281 students enrolled? 122 of them came from Jefferson Elementary School District, and that is the breakdown per school. Sixty-four of them came from the Pacifica School District, and that is the breakdown as well. 95 of them came from 3 different areas. So 20 of them came from the Brisbane School District. 14 of them came from the Bayshore Elementary School District. And 61 of them came from a district that perhaps they came from a private school and said that they will be attending our school, and then the last minute they said that they will be attending a different school. So they are not from our partner schools. And you can also see here, with the denominator, that is the number of students in their 8th grade class. Okay, so just as an example, for Lippman, 20 out of 44, so 45% of our that students did not attend Jefferson Union High School District. So they did not attend our school district. Where are they now? So here a summary of what we had found out. Most of them, 121, 43.1% are not enrolled in a California public school, meaning that we searched through CalPads everywhere and they just do not have any records. So they're either outside of our country or they are in a private school. But I know that what we would like to see is, to survey these students and families to see where they had gone, but we will need a little bit more time in finding that out. 69% of them, 69 students, or 24.6%, attended Shasta. 8.2% is in South San Francisco. 7.5% is in San Mateo Union. 1.4% in West Contra Costa and other California schools, which is a combination of others. It's like 1 or 2 students all over California. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, there was a presentation from Summit, and it was said that all of their students came from our JUHSD attendance boundaries, and I did confirm whether this is true, and this is what they had sent me. So I wanted to provide some clarification that not all of their students are from our attendance boundaries.
Are they're freshmen, right?
They're freshmen, yeah. So current 9th grade Shasta students. So where are the 281 students enrolled from when they, from Jefferson Elementary? So as you can see, as I said, there were 122 students that did not attend from Jeff L. Where did they go? So it's broken down by charter schools. by out of district, by Shasta, and private school or unknown. And this, you can see again, most of them, they're probably in a private school. Now, where are the students enrolled from Pacifica? So of the 64 students that did not attend JUHSD, again, most of them are currently attending a private school or unknown. 25% Shasta, 27% out of district, and then 2% charter school. And it's broken down by school as well. And then this is from Brisbane, Bayshore, another outside of our district. And that is the breakdown as well. So just as a summary, the 281 students, 1.5% is now at a charter school outside of Shasta. 31% is outside of our district, 24% at Shasta, and 43% at a private school or some unknown school that we don't know currently. In 2016, 2017, a similar report was reported either by Mr. Burns or Mr. Irish, I'm not quite sure. But this was a similar data. We pulled a very similar data, and this is what the result was. So 24% of the students went out of district, 18% went to Shasta, and 55% went to private or other school districts. This is what we currently have this year. So 31% is out of district, 24% is now at Shasta, and 43% in private or other school. What is really interesting is that when we compare the percentage, it's very similar.
Wow.
So summary of findings, there is an overall decrease in enrollment except for Jefferson High School where enrollment increased. Again, 281 students, 21% who live in the JUHSD boundaries chose not to enroll at one of our schools. The percentage of non-enrollment remained the same as the data in 2016, 2017. And Shasta's percentage of JUHSD boundary students increased in the last 3 years. And not all of Shasta's 9th grade students attended one of our JUHSD partner schools. Some of our wonderings is that, how many of our students come back to Jefferson Union High School District. So it would be interesting to find out, in 2016, 2017, perhaps we can look at, who came back to Jefferson Union High School after that data was pulled. And we also, what else can we find out about the students who did not select our districts? So what we would like to do is to send out a survey to gather more information. We would like to ask, why did they select, JUHSD for the ones who are here? Why did they select a specific school when they chose JUHSD? And for the ones who were not here, why did they not select JUHSD? And what could we have done to improve either the school selection process or their chances of coming to JUHSD? Some of the other next steps is that, again, we're continuing to improve the outreach to students and families. And as you can see, we have some open houses coming up in the next few weeks. Pacifica High School Fair is this Thursday, but we will also have a JUHSD High School Fair just for our high schools on October 16th. And also, what we are also trying to do, and we've already contacted Jefferson Elementary, so we are going to Fernando Rivera on Thursday as well, where we will do parent presentations about our district. I believe Ms. Basuino has also reached out to Pacifica, Bayshore, and Brisbane to get dates also so that we can visit their districts and schools as well to provide additional outreach to parents. And that is it. Questions?
Open it up. If there's not questions or comments. students as well.
The school selection process, that window is,
For this year, it's November 18th through January 6th.
And when you're talking about students coming back to JHSD, you're talking about students that may have started their freshman year in outside of our district, whether it's Shasta, et cetera, and ultimately come back at some point in our schools, to one of our schools during their high school career.
I'm curious, out of that 281 students, how many of them will come back and enroll at JUHSD? I was looking through some data last night. I already found a couple of students that just currently, very recently, re-enrolled out of the 281 students.
how about students who they attended public school, were in the feeder district, went to a private school, but then, like around junior year, came to enroll at JUHSD?
So those are the kinds of things that we would like to track and also figure out, like, you know, what attracted you to come back, and.
I already know 3 students.
So, I mean, this is just reconfirmed stuff that I knew anecdotally, right? Just the data to back it up. But I think the areas of concern weren't really with enrollment. There's 2 separate areas. One is enrollment, one is the trends, right? And the trends are holding steady with people not leaving their city anymore, right? The Daly City, before, when I first started as a board member, Oceana was almost 50-50 split between Daly City and Pacifica students. That has dropped. And then Terra Nova was 65% Pacifica, and the other Daly City and outside schools. And we know that Samtrans not providing a bus to area that's not like an hour-long ride outside of Daly City and Brisbane to the Pacifica schools has caused people to shift and go to Shasta, Westmore, or Jeff. And so I don't know, like, is that gonna undo, because we don't know, getting Samtrans to provide reliable bus service is something that's outside of our hands. And knowing that that trend has continued, thinking about what type of, like, I think starting conversations on, is this the new norm? And if so, how do we update? Like, what do we do? Because we're still operating, like, at some point these kids are gonna come back. But if you look at the numbers, it's only 281 kids, and they're gonna be split between all the schools. So what does that mean if we recruit all of them back? That's not a huge number, you know. The other thing is when does Shasta renew their charter?
Renewed it last year.
Yeah, so it's every.
I think it's 5 years.
Every 5 years? Okay. Can we schedule a conversation with them about?
2x2?
Yeah.
Is there a limit to how many students they are allowed to
No, but I do think it's a problem that if they come and present data that's not factual.
Yes, I agree.
You know, that needs to, there needs to be a discussion about that.
Yeah.
And if so, you know, also, like, what can we do? I don't know, is there a conversation that we have with county council about what is presented to us versus what's factual? You know, is there anything that we can do legally, I think is a question.
Baka, do you have any sense, so when we first looked at this presentation when you were developing it, I said, can you go back to Shasta and find out more about, so how is it that Ren came up with this correct data? I mean, did she give you any indication?
I don't know the source. When I asked her, she just sent it to me, the same day with, their previous schools. And so what I did with their previous school is, I looked up where the previous schools are, what the cities are, and that's how I came about with, those cities. And it's not all JUHSD, partner.
I'm just wondering how she came to the conclusion in August that all the freshmen.
I do not know where your kids are coming from, one. Two, this is the second time this has happened, right? We accidentally let in too many kids, you know, these accidents keep happening, so.
When the charter started, they were supposed to be capped at 100 per class, right?
We asked, and
Yeah.
they said they were, it was unclear. Apparently it was in their language that there was like 140 or something like that.
Right.
But they stated 100, that was the stated, repeated stated.
And my thing is, you know, if you're taking students from outside as a basic aid, that's a problem, because we're paying for students that, with tax dollars, that aren't from the area where they come from. So we're paying for every single one of the students that are coming in from outside our district with property taxes from people here. Like, the money doesn't follow the kid, because we're basic aid. So they need to be upfront with us with how many students they're taking in, and that is a large number of kids. So,
It was, I agree.
so, you know, one, if we can't trust them to give us factual, the bigger issue is that if we can't trust them to give us factual data, then we don't have a relationship. So we need to understand how that mistake happened and ensure that it doesn't happen anymore, and what can we do besides just tell them that? Like, what else can we say or do to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Quick question, Ms. Baca. So in your presentation, you mentioned I believe it was 281 students who came from our partner, you know, middle school districts who then left. Based on that data, are you looking into changing any, I don't want to say recruitment, because that's not necessarily the right word, but different strategies into, you know, trying to retain more kids from our district boundary, you know, kind of districts into staying? Because personally, I know from my personal experience, I didn't receive, you know, a lot of information, a lot of guidance from Terra Nova, and I assume it's, you know, similar throughout the district. And because of that, a lot of, you know, close friends of mine and families decided to move outside the district because they didn't really, there wasn't that clear communication between, you know, kind of a clear picture of what was going on within the district. So because, you know, now that we have the data and we can see how many kids we've had and then lost, I think looking into changing different strategies, different, you know, community outreach type programs into, you know, basically giving a good sales pitch on our district and our schools to retain what we already have. And then once we've done that, then once we retain what we have, we can move on into trying to, you know, maybe even get people from outside, but we have to solidify our community here. I think that's very important.
I know that, you know, a couple of things that we are doing with student services is directly, you know, outreach to the parents. Again, like before, you know, they had to come to our high school fair, and now we are holding parent nights to just increase our visibility. And also the other thing that I think we really need to do is we just need to strengthen and promote the programs that we currently have, because we have a lot of really good programs, but we just need to market it and say, you know, look, we're just as good as any.
I agree, absolutely.
And then I'm wondering, especially with like the Bayshore and Brisbane schools, because they're only half of their kids, right, from the data. And, you know, 8th grade is too late with that community. You know, is there a way that we can go to 5th grade? Like, if they're having a 5th grade parent night, is there a way that we can go and present there, or ask if it's possible to present on campus at those nights, to start an earlier impression of what we offer at the schools, instead of waiting until they're, you know, community gossip about what each school offers? So, you know, parents, like, we know, like, I had my mind made up. I mean, I went to all the 8th grade parent nights, but I was like, I already knew what I was gonna do before the 8th grade parent night. So the sooner we can get in there, the better, and I think starting in elementary school. The other thing is, when we have our high school fair here, have we talked to our tenants? Like, do we know what our tenants are doing that night? Because I don't want to have parents here and then we have tenants.
What day of the week is it?
Going on.
October 16th, which is a Wednesday.
Oh, that's like church night.
Right, and so I'm like, is there a way that we could talk to them to not, maybe, like, we need the space or something?
Maybe we can put up some dividers too to
Right,
Yep.
right. And any, like, any communication, like, we're doing and holding a special event, like, keep this area clear.
do something in a way that makes it
Or
also
no
very,
signage.
something that makes it very welcoming for our.
The signage too is like really problematic sometimes, so,
Well,
like,
April's working on our signage problem because it's just crazy that you pull in our driveway and you can't, she wants to fix that.
yeah, our signage, but their signage. Like, when they're holding church nights, it's very secular. I mean, it's signage that's out. And if they're gonna walk, parents, we're gonna have a bunch of parents walking in through that, like, that could turn a lot of parents off. Like, it's kind of.
So we can certainly have Giselle send something out to our tenants, but I think it'd be worth our expense to buy some of those cloth dividers so that when you come in, you don't go down those hallways.
That you walk.
And direct people to the right doors.
Okay.
Because there's just so much on all those walls. It's just amazing how much they have up. It's all
Right.
religious.
Right, but they put stuff outside, is what I'm saying. Like, the signage is outside, in the parking lot in the front.
And sometimes when they have events on the inside, it's all decked out.
Yeah.
Something I was just noticing, I went back and looked at the demographic data from a year ago. It's interesting that the demographer was actually projecting that this school year we would have 4,249 students, and we are only 6 students off 4,243 based on the data.
He was worth the money.
What was also interesting is how spot on they were with a couple of the other schools too.
Yes, they were.
But they were where they were off was actually they anticipated Terra Nova being higher and Jeff being lower, and that's really where the switch is. But but I would think, going back to your point, Lima, about some of the movement and how this current data sort of, affirms what we knew anecdotally, but also confirms the stuff that the demographer was showing with the movement. And I think actually it might be kind of good to just go back and do a little bit of comparison with just some of the movements, going back to Mr. Murphy's question too, because you actually, and we could actually sort of see the movement from, Daly City into Pacifica for some of the schools and vice versa, as well as the out-of-district movement, because they do break it down by actual address.
Yeah.
You see a dot on the address of the student that's attending a particular school.
Yeah.
So it's it is pretty remarkable that they were how spot on they were, and truly understanding the community just based on the numbers alone. But thank you. This is, this was really great data. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is really great data. New data is always good. And even just bringing together the data in a way that is coherent, really appreciate this. I think just to echo, and not to repeat what some people have been mentioning, it's interesting to see where students move around, and I think students move where their families go, right? But it's also about choices, and of course, I think how we communicate about our district, and what's being communicated about our district from outside of what we're saying, right? So that said, one of the things, I guess a question would be, or something that we could look at is how many newcomer students we have, how many new international students that we have coming into our district, and how that's impacting enrollment in some places.
So right now, we probably have about 100 newcomer students already, and it's only been, October 1st.
This year.
Yes, and and they're usually either a Westmore or Jefferson. It's astounding the number of students that we get. Sometimes we get 4 in a day.
These are newcomer students are students who come here from another country.
Yes. So newcomer students are students that are from a different country, and they're actually if they say that they, on their home language survey, that they speak another language other than English, we actually do an intake here, and they get the English language proficiency assessments for California. And so, we see most of these families, and again, there's been an influx of students, immigrant students.
That is interesting, because I know in some of the schools that I've worked at, especially in recent years, it can fluctuate a lot. There are recent immigrants that are coming from places, even some of our students that have been in detention camps, and so we are serving their needs. And I think it's important to note when we're looking at the other school districts, at least the data we have on Shasta and the presentations we had before, we don't know how many necessarily are receiving services in special education or ELL. designated education, so that is important. Another one that I was looking at is the freshman class non-selection rate. It did fluctuate, and the private schools actually in this area lost 12%, but between out of district and with Shasta, it raised a combined 13%. So, I mean, not that that directly correlates, but it's interesting because even that can tell us outside of school choice that private schools cost money. And so as families are looking at other schools, looking at the regional area, a lot of those who left were going to other schools out of district or either in other parts of the peninsula or even in West Contra Costa. So housing being an obvious issue, we know that correlates. Do you have any insight on that in terms of like maybe student surveys on why they left or if that's the next step?
That would be our next step, and to figure out, is it housing, is it the cost, is it what is it that made the move?
Is there any way to track demographics beyond this in terms of who's left, or is that part of the survey that we're looking at maybe too, in terms of like race, socioeconomic status, immigration status, those things like people kind of designate?
It could be something that we could work at the executive cabinet and figure out, a survey that we can perhaps give, every year, and include all of the other information. That would be really helpful for us to dissect more information and dig deeper the root cause of these things.
Thank you.
So I'd like to go back to Mr. Murphy's comments about recruitment, only just because the last couple of weeks I actually had some experience with that. So I was talking to a parent, and they're actually at Ben Franklin right now, and they are looking to go to possibly a private school, because she said that her son had mentioned to her that they're not able to pick the school that they want to go to for high school. So I think there's also some misunderstanding and miscommunication just within the JUHSD district, because they run it different than we do. So, I mean, if we could get the message across, which would be, like, hey, we are open enrollment, and that, you can look at private schools if you like, but at least that you're getting the correct information and have all the options that you want before making that decision. I think that would be really helpful in adding to the recruitment of the students, and because she's listening to her son, where she shouldn't be getting information from her son, she should be getting information from, at least from us directly, if that's a question that they have. So, and then also I did speak to another parent, and it was more, and I'm still waiting for an email from her, but she did mention to me that there was some admin issues and also like some discrepancy about what school that they wanted to go to, and they actually did end up going to Shasta because they said that they thought they were able to go to Westmore, but then they had to go to Jeff, but they wanted to go to Westmore, and there was some issues surrounding that. But, just I think if we could clear up, if it's what it is that is clerical error, then that would probably help a lot.
We did encounter that issue over the weekend, and where I received a parent email, just a clarification email. And from that email, I drafted, a very simple summary of our enrollment policies and our attendance boundaries that we're going to be sharing with all of the administrators, everybody that, deals with enrollment, so that we are all on the same page. It will also be posted on our website, and we will also share this information with our partner districts so that we are all on the same page, and there's one document that clearly states, what are our policies as far as attendance boundaries.
And I think too, I think part of this also, the problem is that the parent has decided about the school before hearing about us, what each school offers.
Yes.
So to me, if you just say, I just want this school, and if I don't get this school, I'm out, that to me is a parent that hasn't been informed about what's happening in all of our schools.
Absolutely.
So if we can start the message about what each school offers and the benefits of each school much, much earlier, that would be, I think, beneficial, because there are a lot of parents who will only go to one open house to the one school that they think they want to go to, and if they can't get into that school, then they leave the district, and they don't really take the time to learn about any of the other schools. So
We highly promote shadowing, because I think that, can really show what it's like to be on that campus. So each of the school sites do have shadowing, days.
But I think the larger issue is like I talk to parents who believe, well, I don't want to go to that school because they don't offer AP classes. I'm like, where did you get that? There's just wild beliefs about certain schools, and because there's no one to correct them. And if they don't go to the 8th grade parent night of that school, they're never going to learn. And it's hard to find that information on the websites about, exactly like what each school offers. So the only place to find that out is in person, and and you have to go to something, and if the person only goes to the one thing, you're not going to get that info.
I think one of the things we've talked about in executive cabinet for a number of weeks now is if we aren't telling the story,
right,
somebody else is. So that's why we need to get involved a lot sooner than 8th grade, 7th grade. I mean, we need to be down in the elementary schools.
Right, I mean, my company over the summer, we hosted some students from Boys and Girls Club, Mid-Peninsula, and most of them were Bayshore students. So when I was talking to the kids, and the topic of high schools came up, and this little girl who's in the 3rd grade, she said that her parents went to Jefferson High School, but that's why she's not going to go to Jefferson. She's in the 3rd grade because her parents said that's not a good school. But she didn't have any cousins or anyone closer in her age that had gone through Jefferson, since her parents went there. So it's a lot of that too,
The other thing that I had forgotten to mention is that Bayshore, reminded me of that, actually reached out to us and see if their counselor and their superintendent can visit our school sites. So one day in October, I'm actually going with them at all of the school sites to visit the school and learn about the school to help them promote us and learn about us.
Great.
I mean, I think for me, we really do have to have a strong marketing message and really look at this as in a very entrepreneurial mindset, quite frankly. I mean, it's the consistency of being able to find things on our different schools' websites. It's being able to have the college matriculation data. Or college acceptance data. It's the list of AP courses, all of that stuff, where we can all find it in the one place. Because if parents are looking at this stuff at if a third grader is already anecdotally saying this sort of information, then maybe we should even be talking to the mothers clubs. I mean,
I think we should.
Quite frankly, because as a new parent, you have no idea that you actually live in a community that has 2 school districts. Just even understanding the fact that there's an elementary school district and a high school district is a big hurdle when you're a new parent.
I mean, at FogFest, I saw you talking to that parent who had the baby in her carrier.
Exactly, and she was incredibly impressed with the fact that we were doing the SAT day on October 16th and the different AP courses as we're talking to her about it. So I mean, but we do need to get that messaging out early. I mean, even just to plant a tiny little seed.
Yeah, little field trips for our robotics team to go out to the schools.
And I think too, we don't use our alumni enough or at all. Like, I think that it's just not us carrying a message, but I think it's much more powerful when an alumni comes and says, this was how the district benefited me, and using them at some of the meetings as well, that they're local and willing to do it. But yeah, at the Shasta approval meeting, when we had this meeting where Shasta was first applying for the charter, there were tons of parents there that had infants or 3- and 4-year-olds that were saying they were concerned about leaving the area because there were no good high schools. But I was like, your kids are 3 and 4, like you have no, but the people are already thinking about it at that age. So yeah, again, I was just saying 5th grade, but if we could get in a mom's club, Pacifica Moms Club is a huge, Taylor City has a mom's club,
And ultimately Chambers of Commerce.
Ms. Hawkins, will you add that to our list? So Ms. Hawkins is setting up meetings for the 2 of us to go around to the elementary, middle school PTAs. I'm pretty good talking to parents, so we can certainly add those children's club. It's funny, Mr. Murphy, because we spent closed session talking about how to work with our staff on how to better, I mean, in education, you're not trained in how to be marketers. You're mavens, right? And so we have to train our administrators to think like salespeople. That's one thing we have to do. I wanted to first say thank you, Ms. Bach. That was a great presentation. But the point, I don't want to get lost. Those 281 students, we need to find out why they made the choice not to come to us. But equally important is to find out why people did select us. And then that third question, I mean, to use that to, if there are things that we may not be thinking about all the reasons why a parent or a child selected one of our schools. So I'd like to know that. And what can we do to simplify the process or educate people? So those are surveys that we're going to be working on, and hopefully we'll have data for you pretty soon. And I think it'll be helpful to us.
I happened to be giving somebody a ride home yesterday whose child goes to a private school, and she's in 8th grade, and she didn't realize I worked in Jefferson High School District, and she said, oh my gosh, we're trying to figure out, because private schools, we just don't think that's right. And I said, well, you live in my school district. Let me tell you about our high schools. And she says, well, I think I'm just going to go to Shasta. So she knew about Summit Shasta. She goes, so Summit Shasta? And I said, well, that is a charter school that's in our boundaries, but she knew about Shasta, but she didn't know about our schools, which I found so somehow she got that information. So she's not in one of our partner districts. Her child's going to a private school, but she wants to come to public high school. So I was really happy for the flyer that we have with all of the information. I emailed it to her and she was like, thank you so much. So she was really excited for that. That's just one person, but she was really happy for all of that information. So she's going to come to the night that we're having with all of our high schools. I encouraged her to shadow, but I'm sure there's some kids in there that they're currently not in our partner districts. I'm not sure. I think maybe the website is probably the best place if there's stuff there, because most people will look at a website. I'm not sure how you get to them, but
it's a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Even on a really great new flyer, there's nothing on there that says open enrollment and what it is. That, these are choices. All of these schools.
Like pick your school. Yeah.
I have a question. With how the high schools are and middle schoolers having a hard time getting information, I was wondering how much of a presence do we have in these middle schools? Do we try to have events at their schools at all, or is it purely just our own events and parents and students have to come out to us?
Exactly.
Is that really?
That's
exactly right. That's the point. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yep.
And even when we do send staff down to the middle school during the day, I agree, I can't remember which board member said it, nothing sells a program or a school like the kids. So I'm thinking about the Pacifica Fair last year, where Oceana had, I don't know, lots of students. And the other kids wanted to hear from the students, not from the adults. So making sure when you go to those other venues that it's not just the boring adult, but you have students who are excited and want to share what they're doing and why you should come to my school.
Right. And to your point, I know Bayshore Elementary has requested Jeff Band to come there. And I don't know if we've ever done that before, but they have asked in the past for Jeff Band to come. I think it was in our 2x2. I think that you guys go to other schools, but we don't ever hit them up. And so, same with Brisbane. I mean, we need to send the band and the robotics club and all that stuff out there to them.
Any other questions, comments? That was very good, very enlightening. All right, we'll move on. Item 13B, administration. We have 13B1, 13B2, and 13B3, all board policy and AR. Dr. Gloria.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't get to more than 3 this time.
Well, I'm surprised about it.
I will say that first one, the one on promotion, acceleration, and retention, most of the language is about what you do in elementary and middle school. So I just cut out all that stuff. We should only be talking about what we do in the high school district, but
Okay.
there's nothing here that's unusual.
Great. Any questions, comments? All right. Item 14, consideration of future agenda items. Anything, anyone?
Yeah. I know we discussed this from time to time. I bring it up from time to time, but I think with changing laws and some that did not pass with regards to ethnic studies, to update on our status. Where are we with ethnic studies? Are we pursuing that? I know the districts have moved forward, but I'm interested because we do have things in place, I think, that speak to that and that fulfill that and provide those opportunities even through the college, which is even in some ways, I would say like an equal or better opportunity to get exposure to what it has to offer, and it's very empowering. But I do want to see where we are as a district in terms of what steps have we taken, or what steps are we taking, and where do we want to go with that.
Nothing else. Before we adjourn, there's a couple of memorials to discuss, to mention. We adjourned tonight's meeting in honor of a handful of folks. First off, Irene Gross, former JUHSD employee who worked at Westmore High School as a career center aide. While employed with our district, she eventually married one of our superintendents, Robert Gross, who was superintendent from 1990 to 1994. Mrs. Gross passed away on September 5th, 2019. Julie Brucia, JUHSD employee who worked in the transportation department as a van driver. She passed away on September 12th, 2019. Beverly Hamill, former JUHSD employee who worked at Westmore as a paraprofessional for 28 years until she was a young 84 years old. She stayed healthy and loved to work. She enjoyed walking and spending time with her family, of whom she was always there for, along with her students. She was a kindergarten teacher and had a lifetime credential. She then chose to be a paraprofessional after she had children. She loved to go to vacation in Tahoe. It was her second home. She will be missed. Ms. Hamill passed away in September 2019. We also adjourned tonight's meeting in honor of Giovanni Gigi Giannini, a Jefferson High class of 2016 alum, who passed away on September 28, 2019. Gigi, as she was affectionately known and called, enjoyed life, traveling, and beauty aesthetics. She was in the process of becoming a licensed cosmetologist as she was attending Skyline College's School of Cosmetology. She was a sweet, kind-hearted, funny, smart, and outgoing young lady. She will be missed. We send our condolences to the Giannini family, as well as a host of friends and loved ones.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:22 p.m.